What's up poopers, Hakurai here, and I've been feeling the need to make this video ever since 5-man leveling started picking up steam. I've been hearing all over the place from friends and in different looking for group channels that there are tons of individuals and guilds trying to find people to form 5-man leveling groups, or guilds that are assigning people to leveling parties to get to 60 as fast as possible. And while I can see the appeal greatly to this, 5-man leveling is extremely fast. Everyone seems to have glossed over some of the cons that I mentioned in the first few videos. Mainly, leveling with 4 other players for roughly 4 days straight can get really rough, especially if it's with strangers. Speaking from experience, those of you who've been following me since Terra know that I got the Server First Lancer Prime title by group leveling in a 5-man party. Let me tell you something, by the end of that leveling run, only 2 of us were left, and I was getting really annoyed at every single tiny little mistake any of the other members made, like forgetting to pick up a quest, or not buying enough reagents, taking the wrong flight path, etc. And that grind was only about 16 hours.
Oopsie doopsie, I flew to Westfall instead of Lakeshire.
That's so Timmy. Come on buddy, get your ass to Lakeshire.
Oopsie doopsie, I flew to Booty Bay instead of Chilwyn Camp. I'll be right.
Get the f out of my group. So before you ask me, hey Hakurai, what's the best composition for a melee cleave group, or what class should I get for my spell cleave group, know that the answer isn't what class you should bring, it is who you should bring. That best friend you have, you know, little Timmy, the one that's always forgetting to repair his gear sometimes, and he comes to the dungeon with a broken weapon, and you guys all have a good laugh while he hurries to fix it.
Hey guys, you know, I forgot to repair my weapon again. I'm gonna head back and repair it real quick in a jiffy. Be right there.
Oh my god,
that's so Timmy of you. You're always doing that, Timmy. You're so silly.
If you bring little Timmy along when you're trying to grind out dungeons to 60, by the end of it, you're gonna hate little Timmy from the bottom of your soul.
You guys are gonna never believe what happened, but I forgot to repair again. I've gotta run on back to town and get myself home.
Timmy, if I ever see you again, I'm gonna shit in an envelope and mail it to your mother.
Classic WoW dungeons are a different beast in general compared to retail. They take longer, require travel time, and getting to know the people in your group a bit first. You're not going to get put in a group with a nameless face and instantly steamroll through the dungeon. So you'll be expected to follow some basic etiquette rules in these dungeons in order to not piss off your group members or drive them insane. So let's jump into my list of common 5-man dungeon etiquette for classic World of Warcraft. Some of these are just common sense, but you'd be surprised how many people don't follow them. And if you don't follow these rules a little too often, don't expect many people on your server lining up to do dungeons with you anymore, whether it be leveling or at max level. Number 1, respecting people's time. When you are playing by yourself in classic or any video game for that matter, it's your time. Do whatever the hell you want with it that makes you have fun. If you're playing with friends, go ahead, goof off, have a good time. That's what it's all about, having fun. But when you join a group with a bunch of strangers to do something like a dungeon together, just remember that you are now not only playing with your time, you're also playing with their time. There's a lot of ways you can disrespect your group members' time. A lot of them are indirect and some are situational and forgivable. The first way is demanding summons if the group has a warlock. Now this one can sometimes be okay. If the group is messaging random people through the world to get into their dungeon, and when they invite you, they're ready to go and you're in the middle of nowhere, you can expect a summon. But if you're hopping around Ironforge or Orgrimmar and see the group is full, and then you decide, oh, everyone's going to the dungeon, it's a good time to go AFK and cook a burrito, so that when the warlock gets there, he can summon me, that is in a way disrespecting that warlock's time. Most of the time warlocks get used to this kind of treatment and put up with it, but I guarantee you that that warlock saw you sitting AFK waiting for a summon, and even when he throws you some smileys and no problem buddy, he hates your guts, and he'll never forget that you're a lazy ass. It's kind of indirectly saying to the warlock, my time is too valuable to be spent traveling, Mr. Warlock. You do it for me and then summon me instead, peasant. Kinda, that's a bit overdramatic. But if you're always that guy who waits for a summon, don't expect to have many warlock friends. Another way is just forgetting to do stuff before the dungeon. Forgetting arrows, water, repairing, keys, reagents, quests. No one is perfect, this happens to everyone once in a while. For your fellow group members, it's probably just gonna be a, alright, go and get it. But don't make it a habit of always being that forgetful guy. Make sure you have what you need on you before heading to the dungeon. Traveling and flying around can take a long time in Classic. For example, getting to Maraudon from Ironforge or getting to Sunken Temple from Orgrimmar can take up to 15 minutes. So making your group wait for you to get there and then have to go back and then get there again is gonna twist up some knickers. Another way of disrespecting people's time is excessive AFKing. Everyone has emergencies, of course, it happens, but remember that when you are in a group of strangers, you cannot expect them to be so understanding of your emergencies. If you slip AFK for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, most groups will put up with it. They won't like it, but they'll accept it. But don't be surprised if you go AFK for 15 minutes or something and come back to find that you've been kicked out of the group. Making people wait for you all the time is very disrespectful of their time, and if you do it way too often, people won't put up with it, or shouldn't put up with it. And even worse, there are people who fake AFK and let the other party members clear the dungeon for them. That'll quickly make you infamous on your server. The number 2 etiquette rule is planning your time. Too often did I get into groups on private servers or back in vanilla where people join dungeon runs when they just don't have enough time to complete them. Manage your expectations when it comes to joining groups for certain dungeons. If you constantly join runs and then pull out of the run before it finishes because you have to go, people will remember you for that and be less likely to take you along next time. For example, if somebody is advertising to do a Blackrock Depths full clear quest run, don't join that group in your 30-minute lunch break or something. You should always ask the group for a rough time window of how long it might take before joining if you don't already know. A BRD full clear quest run can take up to like 2 to 3 hours depending on the group. Number 3 of dungeon etiquette is patience. Not everyone playing Classic WoW will have played vanilla or private servers. They won't know every skip, every shortcut, every trick or boss encounter, and some people will be learning a brand new game altogether. Being rude and flaming people works fine in the toxic cesspool that is retail's Dungeon Finder because you won't see those guys again and they can just kick you from the group and instantly get someone else if you aren't playing up to snuff. But in Classic, names are put to faces. When you're a constant D-bag to everyone and act like an elitist, people remember and people talk. And not only that, it's a pain in the ass to replace someone mid-dungeon because of the travel times. Instead, try teaching new players how to do things rather than just yelling and flaming them. Most of them are willing to learn. And if you really can't handle people playing less than perfect, then you should just avoid grouping with strangers and opt for guild parties instead, to avoid ruining both your experience and their experience. Number 4 of dungeon etiquette, loot rolling. Generally, when greed items drop or reagents or recipes drop, they're considered greed rolls. Early on though, many greens will likely be upgrades for players while leveling or even for fresh 60s. If you roll need on green items, it's expected that you're going to equip it and use it. Otherwise you should just be greed rolling everything. This is pretty common practice in all versions of the game. But there's always guys who just start spamming need rolls, forcing the whole group to spam need on everything, and when that happens and a green upgrade actually does drop for someone, the person who needs it probably won't get it because everybody's already rolling need. Similarly, unlike in retail, armor types don't mean a whole lot for best in slot gear. Warriors will be wearing leather and mail, paladins wearing cloth for healing, shamans wearing cloth, etc. You should try to establish beforehand in the group what your main spec is and what gear you are trying to roll on. For example, if you are running a dungeon as a feral druid but you are main spec healer, you should let the shamans know you want healing leather drops too. Many items are highly contested by multiple classes, so not establishing what you want beforehand can cause a lot of loot drama when the items drop. This often results in people doing reserve runs or people just inviting players of the classes that don't need the same items as them, which is kinda but it's one way of preventing the issue. And number 5 of dungeon etiquette is respecting party roles. A tank is a tank is a tank in Classic. Even with nerf to damage values from private servers, if you run in and pull impatiently and take too many hits, you'll drop like a fly. When you join a group, you should respect your role and the roles of your other members and carry them out. If you can contribute CC, try to CC. If you can interrupt, you should try to interrupt. You also need to be mindful of mana in Classic, as early on both healers and damage dealers will need to drink often between big pulls before they get some gear. If you try to clear dungeons like people do in retail where the players just steamroll in and AoE everything down, you're gonna have a really bad time. Every class has many unique abilities they bring to the table when they join a group, so don't expect to just be able to show up and auto attack. Mages will be asked to make food and water, rogues should stun and interrupt the warrior's tank, etc. You'll more often than not be doing dungeons in a role you are not spec'd for, but that doesn't mean you should half-ass it and expect your other members to pick up your slack. You hear plenty of memes about rep paladins or moonkin druid DPS being bad, and yeah, those specs do have their issues, but they are not as terrible as everyone makes them out to be. Good rep paladins and moonkins can still be doing damage above tanks at least in 5-man groups, and if you're letting your DPS drop below an equally geared tank, the defense, lol it's just a meme spec, I'm trying it out, that's not gonna work. You're still gonna piss people off. But that's my list of 5 common 5-man dungeon etiquette rules that you should follow for dungeon cleave leveling or max level dungeons if you are playing with strangers. And again, if you are planning to do the 5-man dungeon grind to 60, I cannot stress it enough to make sure you are not playing with people that will make you want to bang your head on the keyboard. Let me know in the comment section below guys if there's any other common etiquette rules you think I missed, and if you like this video don't forget to like and subscribe, but until next time I am booping out.
Boop.